Astonished, heartbroken, and deeply troubled. These are my emotions. After researching and exploring over 100 famous Black figures connected to shocking secret love lives behind the glamour. Hello everyone, we are our Memory Vault. And this is the video, 19 Black celebrities who were the worst sex addicts in history. This profoundly affects how we perceive the boundary between faith talent and earthly temptations, and it might leave you shocked. This video is suitable to play while relaxing, having meals with your family, or doing housework. All information in this video has been researched and compiled by us from multiple sources. If there are any mistakes, please leave a comment below to help the channel grow further. Please subscribe to the channel, press the like button, and turn on the bell to receive notifications for the earliest videos. Now, let's dive right into the first figures. James Cleveland. When mentioning gospel music, James Cleveland is always revered as a shining star, bringing the light of salvation to millions of lost souls. His classic work, Peace Be Still, was not merely a song but a spiritual remedy that soothed so much pain within the Black community of that era. However, behind the image of the respectable spiritual father, radiant under the dazzling lights of the sanctuary, lay a soul wrestling with unnameable storms of desire. That hidden corner was so dark and profound that those who once stood shoulder to shoulder with him all chose to remain silent to protect an immensely great legacy. The harsh truth was gradually uncovered when rumors about young men constantly appearing in his resting room after every show began to spread. The climax was a shocking lawsuit in 1982, revealing the existence of a secret prayer room where soothing music blended with fleeting romances that ensnared him with no way out. From the perspective of our Memory Vault channel, the contrast between a religious monument by day and a man vulnerable to temptation by night is the clearest testament to the fragility of the human side within each individual. The more he was exalted by the crowd, the more lonely he seemed to become, longing to fill that emptiness with carnal desires. The final years of James Cleveland's life were an elegy soaked in torment. He quietly passed away in 1991, carrying the consequences of the century's immunodeficiency disease, leaving behind boundless grief. His belated confession about yearning for divine forgiveness every dark night evokes a profound sense of sorrow in us. If only the weight of fame had not been so heavy, perhaps he would have found true peace for his soul rather than sliding down into temptations and losing himself. Shirley Caesar. Standing at the second position on our list is Shirley Caesar, the powerful woman dubbed the uncrowned queen of sacred music. Unlike the quietness of many peers every time Shirley stepped onto the stage, she seemed to ignite a blazing fire, leading tens of thousands of audience members to immerse themselves in the purest faith. However, few could have expected that behind those sincere eyes and powerful voice was another fire that also smoldered and burned her soul. That was the fire of passionate physical desires with men up to 2 decades younger than her, where she completely shed her saintly facade. The most shocking incident must be the 1974 event at a major religious convention in Tulsa, when the fire alarm system accidentally exposed her scene of revelry with a young male musician right in the VIP dressing room. Our Memory Vault notes that for women standing at the pinnacle of power, like Shirley, fame sometimes comes with extreme instability. They yearn to dominate not only in music, but also in secret physical relationships. Seeking pleasure alongside young men was perhaps her way to fill the invisible voids at the bottom of her heart that lyrics could not touch. Even though that historical incident was cleverly covered up, it completely changed the gospel queen's persona. Later on, she became withdrawn, always keeping a distance from everyone around her and hiding her earthly desires deep within her soul. Her reflection, many years later: the thing that causes us to fall is never the devil, but our own desires, is truly a valuable, deeply human lesson about how one must strive to conquer their own ego. If you think the secret of the gospel queen was shocking enough, brace yourself for the third figure. The hidden revelry behind the hotel door of the mother who guided an entire generation of singers will surely leave you astounded. Albertina Walker. Continuing the historical narrative, let's look back at the life of Albertina Walker, an irreplaceable icon and the one who guided an entire generation of singers into the light of fame. In the eyes of the public, Albertina appeared as a dignified lady, someone who guided souls with a warm, rustic voice like the embrace of a soulmate. Yet behind the strict exterior of an exemplary senior, she possessed a special primal magnetism that made it hard for anyone in her sights to refuse opening up long nights immersed in endless physical pleasures. Albertina's personal life once left fans astounded when the nickname Mama Wildfire leaked after a scandal at a luxury hotel in Detroit in the early 70s. The room with desolate traces after a three-person party, including a male musician and a female co-performer, exposed an intensely uninhibited lifestyle. Our channel believes that when standing in the position of a movement creator, the pressure to always maintain a perfect image inadvertently pushed her into sensual pleasures to find temporary release. Unfortunately, the price to pay for crossing the boundary of safety was incredibly expensive. The chronic respiratory and vocal cord illnesses she had to endure in her twilight years were not merely due to the harshness of time or the intensity of her performances. They were the bitter consequences of uncontrolled revelry in her youth, eroding her most precious asset, her voice. Living her final years in silence and tearing physical pain, the brilliant yet shadowed life of Albertina Walker remains a profound warning about cherishing and preserving one's dignity. Edwin Hawkins. In the fourth position, we return to Edwin Hawkins, the author of the legendary melody, "Oh Happy Day," that shook and united millions of hearts regardless of their backgrounds. During a time when America was deeply divided, Edwin's voice was like a refreshing rain, bringing hope and invaluable peace to the community. In contrast to the typical fervor on stage, Edwin's demeanor was always deeply gentle and compassionate. Yet that seemed to be only a perfect mask, concealing a lost soul, imprisoned in dark desires that always sought to erupt when night fell. The unbelievable secret of this great artist gradually surfaced through inexplicable disappearances in quiet parking lots, or the psychologically shocking incident in 1973 in a dressing room involving underage girls. The Our Memory Vault team feels deeply heartbroken when analyzing this story profoundly. Perhaps being placed on the pedestal of pure holiness by the crowd created a tremendously terrifying psychological pressure, causing him to lose his direction. Sliding into mistakes with young girls was not only an indelible stain, but also the tragedy of a great man carrying a severe illness within his own soul. Ultimately, Edwin Hawkins chose to step away from the flashing lights of the media, retreating to a reclusive life to escape the torment of his conscience's court. The image of him taking his last breath on an old sofa, quietly beside a cassette player, repeating the recording of "Oh Happy Day," brings an indescribably bitter feeling. All earthly mistakes eventually fade into the past, but the question of whether he truly found serenity from his own song remains a great lingering concern for those who once loved him. Clara Ward. Closing the list of the first 5 people is Clara Ward, the most brilliant and proud beauty of the 50s, the leading flag of the famous group Famous Ward Singers. Every step Clara took in the sanctuary of music exuded the dignified, majestic aura of a nun, yet radiated a strange, captivating magic that mesmerized both men and women. Instead of hiding it, she possessed a mindset that went beyond the strict moral frameworks of the era. To her, physical intimacy was a sacred form of sublimation. Clara never shied away from promiscuity, ready to embrace passionate encounters without boundaries. Clara's highly debated freedom reached its peak on a summer night in 1961 in Las Vegas, when hotel staff witnessed a chaotic scene in her room with a male drummer and 2 female fans. We, the content creators at Our Memory Vault, assess that Clara Ward is an incredibly complex psychological prism. The burning desire to touch flesh perhaps stemmed from the desolate loneliness of an overly talented woman. She turned to men to shed her strength and turned to women to find emotional empathy, but ultimately those revelries still could not warm her empty heart. That fiery but entirely draining romantic life cost Clara her vitality and brought a poignant loneliness in her final years. Passing away at just past 48 in age that should still be full of contributions, she left a massive void in the arts. The heartbreaking message placed under her pillow at her funeral perfectly depicted the tragedy of a human life. She was not afraid of moral punishment. She was only afraid of a day when she had to exist without being able to touch anyone's warmth. Clara Ward's wild freedom is perhaps still nothing compared to the earth-shattering hidden corners waiting in the next part. Do not take your eyes off the screen, because figure number 6 will take you to a deeply humiliating red-handed catch right at the threshold of a sacred sanctuary. Walter Hawkins. Walter Hawkins has long been engraved in the minds of gospel music lovers as a great reformer, the one who breathed new life into the famous Love Center Choir. In the public's eyes, his marriage to the talented singer Tremaine Hawkins was once praised as a flawless symbol of a love blessed by God. However, behind the velvet curtain of praising melodies, Walter hid an incredibly dark second life. He frequently visited underground entertainment venues in Oakland, where his deepest desires and truest ego were unleashed, with young male dancers going completely against the teachings he preached daily. The extreme contradiction between a religious icon and a worldly human being was laid bare on a summer night in 1987. Local police discovered him in a highly sensitive situation with a young male dancer right inside a luxurious Cadillac, and heartbreakingly, that car was parked right in front of the church where he provided spiritual guidance. The Our Memory Vault channel views this event as a tragedy of psychological repression. The massive pressure of maintaining the image of an exemplary man, coupled with inner struggles regarding his personal romantic orientation, pushed Walter into a highly desperate dead end. His choice of the space right in front of the sanctuary to satisfy his desires seemed to be an extreme torn conflict between where he belonged and what his instincts craved. After that shocking incident was cleverly covered up, Walter Hawkins gradually withdrew from brilliant hymns and shifted towards melancholic melodies, heavily bearing the gloom of an incomplete human life. His final years were overshadowed by a terminal illness and a very closed-off lifestyle. When he passed away, no one at his funeral dared to mention the wild nights of the past. But that heavy silence was the most heartbreaking proof of a great talent imprisoned within his own unspeakable physical desires, leaving behind a mournful musical legacy. Tremaine Hawkins. Stepping out of the shadow of her broken marriage with Walter Hawkins himself, Tremaine Hawkins did not collapse, but on the contrary, rose strongly to become one of the most dazzling stars in the gospel music sky. Audiences who have been through many of life's ups and downs certainly cannot forget her sobbing voice, filled with all human emotions, as if she were pouring her entire soul into every note. However, when the stage curtains closed, the desolate loneliness of a woman carrying many emotional wounds pushed Tremaine into long nights immersed in revelry. She called the fleeting romantic adventures with younger men a sweet punishment for her own loneliness. The biggest incident struck in August 1982 at the Parkview Hotel, when images of her leaving a room with a male rap singer, not yet 20 years old, were leaked. The inherently very strict gospel community immediately turned its back, canceling a series of contracts and pushing her into the abyss of boycotts. Viewed from the perspective of Our Memory Vault, Tremaine's story reflects an incredibly harsh societal prejudice of that time against women. While many male artists were easily forgiven for physical mistakes, a woman seeking a little warmth to fill the void of betrayal and past trauma was judged ruthlessly and without mercy. Stripped of magnificent stages, Tremaine had to grit her teeth and perform in small, unknown parishes to make a living and nurture her passion. The moment she broke down sobbing amidst a song in Memphis and admitting her own shame touched the deepest part of the public's empathy. Passing the age of 50, even though she became a pastor and used her own youthful mistakes to advise the following generations, she forever never returned to the grand stages. Her life is a sad love song about the exorbitant price of loneliness and misguided desires for love. Pastor Paul Morton. Pastor Paul Morton was once revered as the standard model of a Christian family, the one who steered lost souls back to the shores of fidelity. To the mass audience, especially those who cherish traditional marriage values, his profound sermons on the sacredness of conjugal affection were always a respectable compass. His image alongside his devoted wife and famous son, P.J. Morton, created a flawlessly perfect family portrait. However, beneath that dignified facade and those logical teachings lay a deep pit of deceit where the basest desires had quietly sprouted and destroyed all good values. That fake portrait officially collapsed in July 2000 when a secret videotape was leaked exposing the scene of the respectable pastor in a naked state engaging in uninhibited acts with a young female parishioner. Even more infuriatingly, the setting of the incident was the pastor's office in New Orleans, a place supposedly reserved solely for sacred prayers. The Our Memory Vault team believes that this was not merely an affair, but an extreme abuse of power and trust. When someone uses a lofty religious position to cover up and condone their own carnal behaviors, that betrayal to the community of his followers is a fatal, unhealable stab wound. The fallout from the sensitive tape completely ended Paul Morton's prestige and brilliant preaching career. He was forced to cancel all schedules, evade the media, and retreat to work behind the scenes as a way to run away from the public's fierce criticism. His choice of absolute silence, without a word of explanation or facing the questions about temptation, only made the public more disappointed. The tragedy of Pastor Paul Morton is a sharp reminder to our generation: no magnificent cloak or flowery words can forever hide the fall of an unpreserved character. Inez Andrews. Going back in time to the 1960s, Inez Andrews emerged as a miraculous phenomenon, the irreplaceable soul of the legendary female group The Caravans. Her soaring, hauntingly magical voice possessed a piercing power, making listeners always feel as if they were witnessing a soul writhing and crying out for mercy from above. However, the truth was completely opposite to what people imagined. Inez did not hide her uninhibited nature. She once admitted frankly and without hesitation that her singing on stage was exactly like the wild moans she experienced every night in endless physical encounters. Inez's primal lifestyle, breaking past all moral barriers, led to an unprecedented incident in October 1965. During a religious tour in New Orleans, she was caught completely naked, lying between two young men on a messy hotel bed. The Our Memory Vault channel evaluates Inez Andrews as a special psychological phenomenon of the era. In an extremely conservative social context, her intense carnal desires were like a deeply desperate rebellion. She immersed herself in fleeting affairs with many people, including married pastors, as a way to satisfy her craving to be possessed and noticed, ignoring all judgments of the world. However, the aftershocks of the scandal left deep wounds that Inez could not erase. Though she continued to sing after being removed from many important events, her eyes had become heavy and her voice carried the genuine agony of an outcast. The sight of her sitting motionless for hours after every show, panting like someone who had just escaped a severe psychological starvation, left those who witnessed it heartbroken. Until she passed away in 2012, Inez Andrews remained an unextinguishable volcano of desire, a brilliant life, but forever shackled by physical cravings. Pastor Milton Brunson. Continuing this agonizing list is Pastor Milton Brunson, a figure once worshipped as a living saint, someone who brought spiritual miracles to countless desperate parishioners. His presence on the pulpit always exuded majesty, compassion, and a profound understanding of life. Yet behind the closed doors of his solemn office, that respectable pastor lived a prodigal life, turning sacred faith into an effective tool to manipulate and satisfy bottomless personal desires. That dark truth was kept hidden for many years until a heartbreaking tragedy occurred and unmasked it all. In 1985, the community was shaken by the tragic departure of a female parishioner who was only 23 years old. She ended her own life and left behind a tear-soaked suicide note. The letter exposed a physical relationship lasting over a year between her and the senior pastor. What was even more terrifying was how he exploited the girl's vulnerability every time she cried after prayer hours, embracing her and whispering demagogic words. "This is how God touches you." Analyzing this incident, our memory vault feels absolutely chilled by the cruel psychological manipulation. Borrowing the name of the Supreme Being to justify sexual abuse is the peak of moral decay, shattering the faith of the most decent human beings. To protect its reputation, the church quietly compensated the victim's family with a large sum of money to bury the incident in silence. Although he did not face legal punishment and was still honored at his own funeral many years later, the indignant whispers about Milton Brunson never truly faded. To the elders who experienced and witnessed this event, it is a deep wound to the religious belief system. The life of Pastor Milton Brunson is the most frightening proof that the devil sometimes does not appear in a terrifying form, but cleverly hides behind saintly cloaks and fake words of compassion. Pastor Timothy Wright. In the flow of modern religious music, Pastor Timothy Wright was once praised as a brilliant lighthouse, bringing immortal faith through powerful hymns. His voice used to be a lifeline for many lost souls, helping them find their direction amidst the storms of life. However, tragically, behind the dazzling halo of a respectable reverend, he imprisoned himself in an underworld full of temptations. The daytime saintly cloak was quickly cast aside to make way for all-night revelries at cheap motels where the only instruments were drained wine glasses and the warmth of strange lovers. The incident of being caught by a housekeeping staff member while he was with two young girls at a motel in Brooklyn in 1986 is a heartbreaking testament to this double life. The Our Memory Vault team believes that his excuse at the time we were just doing vocal warm-ups reflects a psychological avoidance of reality that is extremely common among those holding spiritual power. When having to shoulder too many expectations of perfection from the public figures like Timothy Wright seem to use carnal pleasure as the worst possible emergency exit. They deceived the whole world and deceived themselves until they could no longer distinguish what their true self was. The catastrophic traffic accident in 2008 claimed the life of his devoted wife and left him in a vegetative state for a whole year before passing away. That silent departure permanently took away secrets that had never been confessed. Although the crowd still mourned him as a martyred pastor, the knowing glances of those aware of the truth at his funeral told a different story. Timothy Wright's life closed in an unfinished state, leaving behind an expensive lesson about the fragile boundary between the light of faith and the darkness of downfall within the human soul. Dottie Peoples, affectionately hailed by the public as the Angel of the South, Dottie Peoples possesses a rare voice capable of touching the softest corners of the audience's hearts. Every time she sang, thousands of people shed tears, feeling boundless protection and love. However, when night fell, that angel lived a wild life as if tomorrow were the apocalypse. Dottie's romantic life was a highly risky, tangled mess as she simultaneously maintained secret relationships with 4 different men, from pastors and musicians to young men and even married individuals. The climax of this corruption was the shocking event on a Sunday morning in 1996 in Atlanta, when she was discovered being intimate with a male dancer young enough to be her son right on the back seat of a car just hours before stepping into the sanctuary to sing hymns. Under the lens of Our Memory Vault, this behavior-defying space and time was not merely impulsiveness, but a manifestation of a thrill-seeking addiction syndrome. The rounds of applause on stage seemingly were not enough to fill the emptiness inside her. Seeking stealthy, risky relationships right near the ceremony time was perhaps her way of creating psychological stimulation to feel she was truly alive. After that shameful scandal, Dottie was forced to disappear from the limelight for 3 long years to avoid the storm of public opinion. When she returned, even though her voice was as powerful as ever, subtle audiences could detect a shattering from within. Her singing now lacked the pride of an angel, sounding more like a plea for forgiveness from the very bottom of a sinner's heart. Dottie Peoples had to pay an excessively high price with her own honor, a scratch that could never be healed in her brilliant career. Willie Neal Johnson, famous by the nickname the Cowboy of Gospel Music. Willie Neal Johnson brought an incredibly free-spirited and wild breeze to sacred music. His wide-brimmed hat and romantic smile turned him into the idol of countless young women's hearts. However, that fatal attraction came with a coldly irresponsible lifestyle in romantic relationships. The truth about him having illegitimate children with 7 different women, mostly touring crew members, had long been a secret that everyone in the industry knew intimately, but no one dared to speak up to expose. The biggest shock struck in April 1981, when 2 of his pregnant lovers unexpectedly stormed straight onto the stage to expose his promiscuity and fake promises of marriage. The Our Memory Vault channel observes that the most terrifying thing in this story was not the appearance of the 2 women, but Willie's chillingly indifferent attitude. Faced with that humiliation, he did not offer a hint of an apology, but continued to sing as if nothing had happened. That arrogance shows that when a person is given too much halo and worship, they easily develop an illusion of supreme power, allowing themselves to trample on the hurt of others without taking responsibility. Until Willie Neal Johnson passed away, his life remained a chain of romantic tragedies created by himself. His funeral became an ironic scene when 3 women he had deceived stood next to each other jointly praying for the soul of the man who had ruined their lives. The story of the gallant cowboy leaves an incredibly bitter aftertaste. It demonstrates that the true boundary between a talented artist and a heartless person is sometimes only separated by an enchantingly magical gaze, leaving behind countless shattered pieces of innocent hearts. Dorothy Norwood. As one of the pillar members of the group The Caravans, Dorothy Norwood is honored as a master storyteller through music. She has an innate ability to turn dry words into intense streams of emotion, weaving into every corner of the listener's soul. But few know that the saddest story she ever kept hidden was her real life. Stepping away from the limelight, Dorothy withdrew into a small apartment in Chicago, maintaining a tragic same-sex relationship with a married woman. In the extremely conservative social context of that time, this was a destructive secret to the career of a gospel artist. The tragedy erupted in the winter of 1968, when the husband caught her in a state without a piece of clothing to cover herself, calmly reading the Bible next to his sobbing wife. The perspective of Our Memory Vault on this matter carries more heartbreak than judgment. Standing from a deep psychological angle, Dorothy's yearning for same-sex love in a strict religious community was an unspeakable pain. She had to force herself to play an overwhelming role during the day to be accepted by society, and only dared to live true to her ego at night. Without noisy, jealous beatings, the quiet departure of the husband was precisely the most cruel punishment, signaling the public opinion storm preparing to strike. The aftermath of the incident led to Dorothy being boycotted from a series of major events and losing prestigious teaching rights. In the following years, she chose a lonely life, coming and going solitarily in a cramped, rented apartment. Though she still persistently held on to her singing path, the light in her eyes had permanently extinguished. Every time they heard Dorothy sing about forgiveness, her soulmates understood that she was not singing for the world, but was yearningly singing to forgive herself. A melancholic ending for a talented beauty who mistakenly bore a love contrary to the era. Vanessa Bell Armstrong. Vanessa Bell Armstrong is a proud black pearl of gospel music, someone who always knew how to ignite every gaze whenever she stepped onto the stage. However, her fame was attached to shocking backstage scandals. Vanessa possessed an instinctive allure, and the list of lovers passing through her life ranged from rebellious rappers to dignified pastors. She once frankly and proudly admitted that she could not survive without the lustful gazes of men. That craving for worship turned her into a tireless love hunter in the dark. The most painful downfall in Vanessa's career occurred at a performance in New York in 1992, when a pastor's wife suddenly rushed onto the stage, throwing her shoe straight at Vanessa's face, along with a venomous cursed devil in an angel's disguise. Our Memory Vault evaluates this humiliating incident as the inevitable consequence of a severe psychological narcissistic syndrome. Vanessa had confused artistic admiration with carnal craving. Her need to be surrounded by men to affirm her self-worth had crossed all moral boundaries, cruelly trampling on the family happiness of other women. The addiction to attention had clouded the reason of a talented artist. Boycotted and fiercely shunned by countless churches, one would think Vanessa would fall forever, but she chose to face it with immense strength. Her return with songs written about repentance and salvation created endless streams of controversy. Even though the public remained skeptical and gave her the title Apostle of Lust, no one could deny the infectious power in her voice. Experiencing the ultimate highs and lows of fame and humiliation, Vanessa's singing is the clearest embodiment of the endless tear between the holy and sinful parts that always exist parallel within each of us. Pastor Clay Evans. Entering the 16th position, we reflect on the life of Pastor Clay Evans, an outstanding master of preaching. His hours-long sermons were once a fountain of hope, nourishing many dry souls yearning for affection from above. However, that brilliant halo was a screen covering a hollow soul. Behind the closed doors of the quiet prayer room, the dignified pastor exploited the psychological vulnerability of his parishioners to satisfy his stark physical desires. In 1979, the fake facade shattered when a brave church secretary accused him of using his power to lure 5 women in just 1 month. The Our Memory Vault channel is deeply outraged by his tactic of gifting signed Bibles to the victims after every intimate encounter. This was an incredibly toxic psychological manipulation, simultaneously promising soul salvation and threatening punishment if they dared to resist. The most sacred trust was turned by him into an utterly cowardly tool for sexual exchange. It is truly heartbreaking that the parish used money to cover up the truth, shielding the evil out of fear for their reputation. Even though he did not have to stand trial and remained in his position until his passing, Evans' eyes gradually lost their inherent peace. The inner torment turned his final years into an invisible yet cruel sentence. History has proven that power unaccompanied by morality will always be a double-edged sword, entirely destroying all contributions. Pastor James Moore. Standing 17th is Pastor James Moore, a great icon who brought miracles that soothed pain through every gospel note. Living single and childless, he always appeared as a saint, willing to dedicate his body and soul entirely to his faith. Yet the dark hidden corner behind that ascetic exterior were burning same-sex carnal desires. The young assistants, or unfamiliar young men who constantly appeared densely around him, were the first clues about a secret lifestyle of revelry. In May 1984, the Reverend Pastor's reputation completely collapsed when a hotel housekeeper in Cleveland found him unconscious in a naked state. Surrounding him were 2 young men and scattered aphrodisiac pill wrappers. Our Memory Vault's perspective shows that this tragedy stemmed from repressing his sexuality for too long in a religious community full of prejudice. Unable to dare to live truthfully, he had to seek highly risky physical pleasures to fill the desolate void of someone who was always lonely amidst a sea of people. The consequence of his debauched lifestyle was the cold turning of backs from the public and canceled contracts. In the last 15 years of his life, James Moore slid down into pain as diabetes robbed him of his eyesight, his ability to walk, and his God-given singing voice. His final whispered prayer, begging the heavens to allow him to sing again in his dreams, sounded truly bitter. It was the belated apology of a person bearing too much inner turmoil, helplessly giving up before the fleeting temptations of human life. Pastor Al Hobbs. The 18th position calls the name of Pastor Al Hobbs, a powerful leader who dominated the gospel media sector across the eastern United States. Underneath the religious cloak, he was the one who decided the fate of hundreds of young artists holding dreams of changing their lives. Ironically, supreme power turned him into a seasoned predator. He only hired female secretaries wearing short skirts with sweet voices and under 30 years old. The sanctuary of art passing through his hands suddenly became a filthy hub for exchanging money and sex. The most shameful scandal erupted in 2001 when a radio station employee filed a complaint accusing him of forcing her into sexual relations in exchange for broadcast time. The Our Memory Vault team assesses that Hobbs's catchphrase, "Leave it to me as long as you know how to please the adults," was the ultimate moral corruption. It exposed a cruel underground system where the pure artistic aspirations of the vulnerable were used as bait for perverse people in power. Even though the victim later suddenly withdrew the complaint and mysteriously disappeared, leaving behind many unsolved mysteries, the label of an abuser of power remained forever attached to Al Hobbs's name. The quiet sigh of relief from the public on the day he passed away was the most powerful indictment for the sins he had sown. The story of this pastor is an alarm bell about the extreme danger when morality is tainted by ambition and absolute power. Pastor Robert Lowe Sr. The final figure closing the tragedy-filled list is Pastor Robert Lowe Sr., the founder of the renowned Spiritual QCs group in the southern United States. His warm preaching sessions once warmed tens of thousands of dead-end lives, building the image of a gentle, exemplary grandfather. Painfully right under that sacred shared roof, the dignified pastor was an old demon obsessed by desire, daring to taint the very fundamental moral values he preached daily. In 1990, public opinion was stunned by accusations that he had repeatedly sexually abused the 17-year-old niece of a local elder. It is even more agonizing that the young girl always respectfully called him Great Uncle. For our memory vault, this incident went far beyond the boundaries of a normal affair. It was an extremely condemnable crime of abusing a minor. The most terrifying thing was the cowardly attitude of the victim's family when they chose to stay silent and cover it up to preserve false dignity. The invisible pressure from spiritual power suffocated the voice demanding justice, but it could not salvage Robert Lowe Sr.'s honor. He was completely isolated for the final decade of his life, having to live quietly amidst the sharp curses of society. His unpublished book, titled Praying Among the Sinners, was the belated, regretful sigh of a sinner. History forever remembers him as proof that spiritual deceit will always have to pay a tremendously high price. So we have gone completely through 19 deeply heartbreaking stories. Through this video, we hope you have gained valuable lessons about the fragile boundary between the artistic halo and the deep pits of the human ego, thereby appreciating more the moral values and a sincere lifestyle. We wish you a very joyful, peaceful, relaxing time with your family and loved ones. Do not forget to hit subscribe to the Our Memory Vault channel, leave a like button, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the newest videos. Goodbye, and see you again.